Well, today I'm joined by Naima Spencer. Now, she works with leaders and high-performing professionals to help them regulate emotions, something we all need, build mental resilience, and stay clear-headed under pressure. And I wanted to have her on our show today because what I really want to know about is what separates the people who actually move forward from those who stay stuck in that, in that tread water kind of space. And I think that mindset plays a huge role in this. So before we dive in, Naima, firstly, welcome. But for anyone meeting you for the very first time, how do you describe the work that you do and what you believe really helps people change?
Thank you so much, Laurie. I'm so glad to be here with you today. Like you mentioned, I'm a certified mindset facilitator. I work with leaders and senior professionals to help them with overthinking, people who are struggling with anxiety, and I help them to basically unload the heaviness, the mental heaviness, so they can move through life with ease.
So you're working with a lot of really capable people. They're
Yes.
smart, they're probably very motivated as well. And what you do isn't necessarily all about motivation.
No, it's not.
What would you describe it as?
My focus is on mindset because I believe that everything we do, whatever we want to create in life, it's 80% mindset, 20% strategy. So everything I help people with is mindset focused. There are some strategies, but that's not my first thing to go to. Our focus is entirely on shifting mindset, figuring out what the limiting beliefs that are stopping us from moving forward in life and making decisions to change those limiting beliefs to empowering one. The other thing that I focus on is regulating emotions, figuring out what state of mind are we operating from on a daily basis, because that's really important. Emotional regulation is really important, not just for what we want to create, but for our health as well.
And what is regulating emotion?
So there are two states of being. There are powerful states of being and there are primal states of being. So the powerful states of being are states like joy, gratitude, excitement, love, essentially the feelings that feel good. And when you're operating from those states of being, you're connected, you're in alignment. It takes less effort to create what you want. But when you're in a primal state, when you're not feeling good, when you're stressed out, when you're feeling anxiety, when you're feeling fearful, you're completely disconnected. That's not a time to be connected to ideas. That's not a time to be creative. That's not a time to basically be in alignment and be connected to your higher power, whatever your higher power is. It's a time to survive. So when we're in a primal state, all of our energy is in survival. So we have to become aware of that and regulate our emotions. Starts with the thinking, move to the emotions, and figure out what am I feeling right now? And know that whatever emotion you're having, behind it is a thinking. So what are the thoughts that are taking place? And are those thoughts real? Are they true? Most of them are based on fear, but we never stop to question our thinking. Whatever we think, we just believe it and we move on. But thoughts, they're just opinions. It's just the brain's way to keeping us, safe and keeping us protected. But we have to question them because they're not always based and rooted in reality.
And so would primal and powerful mindset, is that similar to the growth and fixed mindset?
No, it's different
It's
because
different.
we're talking about emotional states,
Okay.
empowering states and disempowering states, primal states and powerful states of being. They're linked to emotions, to how we feel on a moment by moment basis.
I feel like more people are becoming aware of, being in a more of a, let's go primal. When they're in a primal mindset, don't necessarily know what it is or why that's impacting them. Is that something you do, is help them, one, be aware of that, and two, come out of that state and move more into the powerful mindset?
Absolutely, because the first thing we have to do is become aware. And that's the first thing that I teach my clients. So my methodology is rooted, it's called the 3 R's. So it's realize, release, and rise. And the first step is always awareness, because you cannot change what you're not aware of. You have to become aware when you're sucked in a negative loop so that you're not consumed by it. Awareness is so important and sometimes it can be powerful to break that loop, but it's not enough. We don't have to stop there. So there are other things that we need to do.
You know, it's interesting because awareness, you say awareness, but the person has to be accepting that they've got that emotion in the first place to become aware.
We all know that we have those, empowering thoughts, and we have those limiting thoughts. It's just a matter of building a habit to stop and question your thoughts. It's just building a habit of being in the present moment, basically.
What are some of those habits that we could do to be more aware and to identify when we're having maybe negative emotions?
Building a habit to stop for a second before you react.
Yeah.
Building a habit to check in with yourself. I always tell my clients, it's a lot easier to check in with yourself about how you feel than what you think. Every time when we meet someone, the first thing we do is, how are you? How you doing? Or how you feeling? But we never ask ourselves that. Check in with yourself. What are you feeling right now? Just take a few minutes and stop and go, what am I feeling right now? And if you're not feeling good, why is that? What are you thinking? Now we can go from the feeling to the thinking. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but I mentioned the 5 primary drivers, the cycle of the beliefs to the thoughts to the feelings, the actions, and then the results that we have. But a lot of times we're not aware of our thoughts. They say 90 or 95% of the time we're unconscious. We're operating, the subconscious mind is taking over. So when do we stop to question our thoughts? Most of the time we don't, but we can check in with ourselves. And if we're not feeling good, if we have one of those emotions that are primal, then link it to what you're thinking. What am I thinking right now? And go from there.
And do you recommend doing that more on a daily basis, weekly basis, or is it just in a moment when you're having, when you identify it?
Well, it's a practice that needs to be implemented a few times a day, so you can start building that momentum. Check in with yourself and just try to figure out what's causing you to feel the way you do. And that's how you start building that awareness. And you become aware to the point, like right now, I don't even tell myself that I need to check in with myself. I'm always aware of what I'm thinking. Well, not always, most of the time, and especially if I'm not feeling good, I just go, okay, what's going on? Why am I having this anxiety? Or why am I feeling frustrated right now? And to go to the thinking, you have to check in, because the meaning that we give things, it's not always about the experience, because you and I can be going through the same experience and experience it differently.
What I wanted to ask you actually, Naima, is that a lot of our audience are entrepreneurs, and I know you work with, high-performing professionals and a lot of leaders as well. And, I feel like they're in a similar category. So those that they are, like I said earlier, capable, they're smart, they're motivated, but for some reason, they just feel like they're stuck all the time. And I feel like this is more and more common these days. What's your thoughts on that?
That's a good question. So a lot of people, the reason why, especially capable people who know that they are capable, so there are 2 things that I can think of. The first thing is sometimes they have a thinking pattern or belief pattern that I have to feel ready before I make a move. So
super common.
Yes. The capability is there, but there is a fear, that's keeping them stuck in overthinking. Another one is usually it has to be perfect, whatever it is. So, and I can speak out of experience. I've dealt with both of those. I have to feel.
Me too.
Yeah, most of us. I have to feel ready. You will never feel ready. That's just something you have to make your peace with. Nobody will ever feel ready. You will always have thoughts about what you can improve and what you can do. But it's scary to get in the court. And that's the fear that usually stops people because it's the unknown. You know, I don't know what's going to happen over there. You know, what are people going to think of me? Are things going to work out? And then the other thing is thinking, okay, it has to be perfect. Well, I love when Tony Robbins talks about that, and he says that perfection is the lowest of standards. There is no such thing as perfection. So we just have to get it to a certain degree where it's okay, then get in the court, learn, fail, learn, and keep moving. That's how we do it.
And do you think that's connected to, the primal state?
It is
at all?
definitely a mindset thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of this, I guess, comes back to having to rewire the brain
Yes.
a little bit. And I know you have a background in neuroscience as well.
Yes.
And so it's all connected. So what is rewiring the brain and how? Please tell me, how do we do this?
So every experience we go through is recorded in the brain. So we build neurosynaptic connections for that particular experience. This also happens with our beliefs. You know, every belief, every thought that we have, because a belief is what? It's just a thought that we keep thinking over and over and over until it's hardwired in the brain. So every time we do that, you know, we go over that belief, we reinforce that connection. So in order to break that connection, you have to make a new decision, because one of the most powerful distinctions that I came across during my mindset training is that beliefs are decisions. You know, for the longest time, I struggled with my beliefs. I knew what my limiting beliefs were, but I didn't know what to do about them until I realized, well, I was taught that beliefs are decisions. So it's just a decision at some point in time that it was made, and I believe it as the truth, and I kept operating from that limiting belief. But now, as an adult, I can make a new decision. So what decision can I make? Usually it's the opposite. If I'm feeling, oh, I'm not good enough, or I feel that, you know, so-and-so is better than me, I'm comparing myself or whatever. Now I can make a new decision. And making that new decision will start the process of rewiring. But we have to go back to awareness. When that limiting belief pops in, when I'm in a situation where a limiting belief is there, I have to become aware of it. And now I have to tell myself and start practicing my new decision. No, that's just a thought. That's an old belief. That's not true. Now, this is, I'm good enough as I am. You know, I don't need to compare myself to anybody else. You know, we're all in this life with our own, you know, faults and our own
Amazing qualities.
Amazing qualities, exactly. So, and then I start finding evidence, because you have to literally tell your brain or give it evidence so that it doesn't pull you back to the old pattern. And the more you do that, the more you weaken the old pattern and you install the new connections in the brain. It takes time. And this is one of the reasons sometimes people don't stick with it, because they want to see the change happening overnight, and it's not going to happen like that.
It's just like weight loss. Why am I 5 kilos
Exactly.
heavier after Christmas?
Exactly.
You know, it's interesting though. I would believe that your environment matters as well. The people you're surrounding yourself with, what you're exposed to, the influences in your life, and particularly in the moment right now. So I guess that's something you would need to be aware of also, to break that pattern, to break that limiting belief, to break that belief and decision.
Yes, because your environment impacts you. You know, if you're trying to work on something on your own and then your environment is pulling you to the opposite side, then you have to do something about that. Either, you know, like you said, the weight loss, you want to try to eat healthy, but all of your friends eat fast food, for example.
The kids are visiting, yeah.
So you have to become aware of that and take measures to not be in that environment, or just help yourself and to become more disciplined.
You said earlier that, you know, back in the day, and let's not go too far back because we're not that old, but you mentioned that you had a lot of limiting beliefs that you had to overcome. How did you do that? What was the trigger or some of the strategies you used to get yourself back into a powerful mindset?
Yeah, so it was a lot of I had to deal with a lot of limiting beliefs, a lot of things that I feel that I brought with me from childhood and even in my adulthood. But starting to work was triggered by me getting into this field of psychology and neuroscience and trying to understand why am I feeling the way I do? Why am I not taking advantage of the opportunities that were presented
And how were you
to me?
feeling back then?
So I'll give you just one example. We can share stories.
Yeah,
So a
please.
long time ago, when I moved from Morocco to the States, I had so many hopes, so many dreams, but a lot of those just, going after the American dream. After a couple of years, it started to feel like a nightmare. And I found myself stuck. I could not get out of the mediocrity that I was in at the time. So I was most of the jobs that I had in my first few years were either I was babysitting or I was waitressing. So one time I used to work with these agencies that help you find these jobs, babysitting jobs. And they set up a meeting for me to go meet with this woman. So I get to the house. It was this beautiful mansion. And, the maid took me to the office. I'm sitting there. She came in. She was very nice. She started asking me questions about my background, about my experience and my education. And at that time, I had already my bachelor's degree in international business. And I was telling her that I worked in Morocco for a bank for 2 years before I moved to the States. And then she started looking at me and she's like, do you know what we do? And I said, no. She said, well, my husband and I have a company. And, I think I would actually love to have you work for us in our company instead of babysitting my kids. She said, don't worry, I'll talk to the agency and I'll have them find me someone else. And she handed me a business card and she said, I remember it was Friday afternoon. And she said, here's a business card. Call this person Monday morning and we'll take it from there. And guess what happened? I left and I never called the person. Not because I didn't want the opportunity, but I didn't feel that I was good enough for it. Yeah. So, and I went back. I could not even think about calling that person. I thought, no, that's not for me. That's for somebody else who's more qualified. I'm not qualified. Literally, when we talk about being your own worst enemy, So those things triggered me to start thinking about why am I thinking the way I do? Why do I feel the way I do? And that was the beginning of the journey. And I just started reading a lot. And things just kept building up, from one to another. I would find out about this motivational speaker and this, workshops. And I was just working on myself because I wanted to understand, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this stuckness? Why am I not taking advantage of the opportunities that life was presenting me with?
I've got to tell you, that is not the ending that I thought was coming to that story.
Yeah.
You talk about the American dream. I thought you were about to just give that to us. But, it's interesting because you do have to do the work first.
Absolutely.
And generally when you are stuck in that space of doing the work, but you've got to do it, you don't actually see the opportunities so clearly.
You don't.
Like, me listening to that going, and you now when you think about it, you're like, there's the opportunity right there. My life would be different.
Exactly.
I would have probably moved further faster, etc. But again, you've got to be able to see it. And I think sometimes, that old saying, when you can't lead a horse to water, you literally can't. You have to be ready and wanting it. And I think it's something to do with the outcome or the other side, the transformation.
Yeah.
The desire to want to be something different or to be in a different location needs to be stronger than the current pain that you're facing right now.
Yeah, well, sometimes you have that desire, but you can't act on it. That's the problem. And because of the fear, because of whatever limiting beliefs you have, they keep you stuck because it's your comfort. Your brain is telling you, don't go over there. It's not going to work out. You have to stay right here because of the unknown. Like you've heard of the saying, the devil we know. So I rather stay here, even though I'm miserable, but this is safer than me going over there because I don't know what's over there. At least I know how to handle this. And this is just the brain trying to keep you safe.
What do you think the common trigger is? Because for someone to move in to this new space and actually, like, often I feel like it's rock bottom. You hit rock bottom and you're like, I've got to do something or it's going to be a very different ending to what I want.
Exactly.
So is it rock bottom? Is it generally something like that, which looks different for everybody, but is it something like that that is the trigger that you commonly see, or what sort of gets someone to go, right, I actually need to take action here?
Yeah, so it is different for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's when they say when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change, then you take action. And that's exactly, I feel that's what happened to me. I got to a point where I could not continue living the way I did. I think I did 2 or 3 more years after that in the same path, babysitting, waitressing, whatever the case was. But people get to a point where sometimes something tragic happens, and sometimes you just get so fed up and so tired that you cannot continue. That's when you stop and you go, I need to do something, and you just take a move, you take action. And the moment you take action, everything begins to change. It's amazing how things just start to work out for you the moment you take action. Because if you're standing right here, life cannot correspond with you. Nothing can happen. But the moment you make a move, life starts to rearrange everything and things start to move. And then you take the next action. But a lot of times we feel that, for me to get over there, it's one jump from here to there. But it's not. It's just taking small steps. What is the smallest step I can take right now? And if I look back, I go, okay, I felt that I needed to go back to school. One of my dreams was to go back to school and have an MBA. And just having that thought, okay, what is the smallest thing I can do? The smallest action I can take today? Let's just go to the university or whatever universities I was thinking about at that time and just ask, just get some information, But if you think about the whole outcome, it's scary. But if you think about the next small action that you can take, then you'll be more motivated. Most likely you'll be more motivated to take action.
So I want to go back to the 3R framework that you have created, which is release, realize, release, rise. And so under my impression here, realize is that awareness piece. And for you personally, that was the moment where you decided you would go back to university and start really investigating what is going on in my mind. Understanding neuroscience a little bit better, starting to surround yourself with better people, going to Tony Robbins events and, getting motivated, but also, again, he's a lot about rewiring the mind. So that would be the realize section. And then when you move into that release component, can you explain to us what is the release phase and what was it for you?
So once you realize and you become aware, now you have to figure out, what's stopping you? What limiting beliefs you're dealing with, because we all have different experiences. We all have different limiting beliefs that's stopping us. So for me, one of those was not feeling good enough. So the moment I realized that, I had to start doing the work to release that and to find evidence of the opposite. Like I said, a very important process in this step is to make decisions, because I realized that, through my training, those beliefs, they're just decisions. Because you think about limiting beliefs and you go, okay, well, how do I change them? I know I have this thing and that pops in my head every time I'm in certain situations, but how do I change that? And that was a phase where I got stuck for a little while. Honestly, even doing the Tony Robbins work, it still didn't really get me to figure out how to change those limiting beliefs until I realized, well, beliefs are decisions. Now, what do? We have to make a new decision. And usually it's the opposite of what's keeping you stuck. and then you try to find evidence for the new decision that you make so that you convince your brain not to pull you back to the old patterns that been keeping you stuck in the first place.
And when you say evidence, is that things like the actions, the decisions, the choices that you were making that were keeping you in that poorer performing space, or that, treading water space?
So evidence of your new decision. Let's
Okay.
say you have an issue, or somebody has an issue with money, for example, and they feel that money is hard to come by. So a new decision is that you want to start believing that money is easy to make. Well, what evidence do you have for that? For one thing, we say that if you don't have evidence in your life, then it's okay to borrow evidence from someone else until your own kicks in. If I'm looking out at so many people and so many opportunities out there to make money. So money is really not hard to make. You just need to know how. I can look at how the situations where I've been provided for. I made money. Someone gave me a gift. I found money. So these are the evidence. This is the evidence that I'm talking about that support the new decision that you make.
You said you can use somebody else's evidence. So perhaps I have a muse that is filthy rich, that makes very good income. Let's go Cody Sanchez, for example, knows how to make money. She started many businesses. Can I use evidence that she has proven to be my muse or reason or take action in the similar way?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that, because if it's possible for someone else, it's possible for you. We're not saying it's going to happen, but it's possible. But if you start that process from the decision that it will never happen for me, well then we're going to stay right here and we'll never make a move. But if I think it's possible, now I'm giving the opportunity to my brain to think of opportunities, to think of ways to start making money, instead of going, it will never happen. The moment you say that, you block all possibilities for yourself.
Do you think there's a specific personality trait or a specific person where they come to this crossroad and they're either going to self-sabotage and go further into the hole versus those ones that get to that phase of realize?
It's not a specific person. I think it's just how you're going to handle the work. One of the things I always tell my clients, you have to be realistic. It's something that it's a pattern that you've been repeating and using for years. You cannot expect it to disappear overnight. We have to do the work, and it's important. Like, I can teach you what to do, but I cannot do it for you. So you have to do the work. That's very important. But this is a time where people, or a place where people actually start to feel discouraged, because it's like when we go to the gym, we have 30 pounds to lose and we go for a week and we go, I'm not seeing any results.
Yep.
No, you have to keep going. You have to be consistent. And the moment you build that consistency and build that discipline, eventually you will see results, but you have to keep doing it.
See, now what you've just said there is really common. People, they want the change. So mindset-wise, they're like, I want the other side. I want the end state and I want the transformation. But you just nailed it right there when you said, but they're not doing the work. Why?
They don't do the work.
They want it. They're paying for it. They've got the coach. And I've had these clients myself, but they don't do the action. They don't take the action to get there.
It's fear.
Because the evidence is there for them as well.
The number one reason why people don't do the work, it's fear. Fear of disappointment. What if I do all of this and it doesn't work out? Then what?
And also, don't you think fear of what other people think if I do something a little bit outside the box that isn't the norm in this industry or in this space, or based on what people know me? Like, suddenly now I'm doing videos where previously I never have, but I'm trying to sell something. And then it's like, oh, but what if my friends and my family, think I'm a loser?
Yeah. So a lot of people don't want to lose their
Identity?
their identity, but I was going for like their circle of friends sometimes, and they're afraid of what people are going to think of them. So, and this is a really important point, because you would think that many people are afraid of they have a fear of failure, but a lot of times, and I've encountered people who are actually afraid of their own growth,
Success,
their
yeah.
own success, because they're afraid to let go. They're afraid to outgrow who they've been. It's very, very powerful, and they have to become aware of it, because the moment we have that awareness, you go, well, this doesn't make any sense. You know, I'm gonna take a chance on myself, and if people around me are not happy with it, well, then it's okay. You know, but you have to become aware of where you at and what fear is stopping you.
You know, the biggest one for me, I always think, is caring what other people think. So I've started 13 businesses. There's evidence there that I can do these things. And sure, not all of them have been successful, because that's been my learnings. But, I've got the evidence that I can do things and that I can grow. But to take the actual or carry out the actions I need to do all the time and level up myself, I always have in that little devil sitting on that shoulder there going, but what are your friends going to think of what you're saying right now? The extra videos that you're on, the magazine articles that you're writing or that you're in. That's a little fear that I'm really trying hard to let go of, to prevent me from staying where I am.
Yeah, well, a couple of things I can say here.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, the voice is there, but you're doing it anyway. So kudos to you.
Yay!
You know? The fear is there, but you have to move past the fear, because they say courage is not the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
So that's the awareness piece, right?
Yes. You know it's there, you analyze it, and you move through it.
Yeah.
So the fear is some type of fear is going to be there anyway. The second thing I was going for is why. You just have to ask yourself a question. Why is that important to you? Your a friend's
Opinions.
Why is that important to you? What do you think? Because there is always a meaning that you're associating with that. It's literally not what your friends are going to think. It's the meaning you're making of it. How do you interpret that?
And how I'm justifying that at the moment, in case someone else is having the same issue. For me at the moment, it's letting myself know that it's okay to not let them go forever, because I always think that friendships sometimes are, they're just for a season. But also, people come and go in and out of your life based on location, where you're at in life, in that moment. And I'm kind of convincing myself now to say that it's okay to let them go. If they don't like what you're doing, it's not for them, and that's okay.
Exactly.
Because there's other people out there that it is for, and that want to be part of that journey with you.
Yeah.
And that just allows you to open up to new.
Absolutely. And the ones who are meant to be in your life will always be there.
Yeah. But it's still a conversation it's not like I just get up each day and think, oh, it's all, fine and dandy. I have to talk myself through that still.
Yes, and it's okay. You know, that voice is going to be there. That's the thing. Sometimes people think that, that voice has to go away completely. It's never going to happen. The voice is always going to be there, but you're aware of it and you're rationalizing with it. I hear you. It's there, but we're going to do it this way. We're not going to go with what you're suggesting. It's almost like, having a conversation with that voice. So it's not an issue to have a voice. The issue is when you follow it and you listen to it.
You've worked with quite a few people to this point. What do you think is their biggest resistant point when they're working with you? What are they resisting that you're telling them to do?
I think the resistance most of the time is linked to letting go of their identity, of their control strategies, of their coping mechanisms, because that becomes part of who they are. That's who they are.
Can we go back a little bit? What is identity? When we talk about, I feel like my identity is that I'm a podcast host or I'm a businesswoman, but what is it exactly? Can you explain that to us?
To me, it's a set of behaviors, a set of thinking patterns, of the actions that you take And all of that makes up your identity. I am. What comes after the I am? You know?
Amazing.
I am amazing.
And do you think that changes over time, your identity?
It changes based on what you do, where you are, your environment, what you accept in your life, what you accept as who you are, basically. And it changes, over time.
And can you use that phrase like identify with who you want to be to help you move forward?
Absolutely. You have to keep that in mind. Who do you want to be?
Who is the version of yourself in 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, that's one of the best questions you can ask yourself every day as you move through changing who you are. And it starts with changing your thinking. And changing your thinking will lead you to change your identity.
We need to put that in lipstick on the mirrors in our bathrooms. I'm talking to Lauren because she's in the studio today too. But we'll put it on lipstick on the mirror when you walk into the bathroom each morning. You're asking yourself, there's either something there positive or something what is the version of yourself you want to be today?
Yeah.
Or what is the version?
How do I want to be today?
Yeah, I think
how do I want to act today? How do I want to behave today? And just pause and have the intention of who you want to be on a daily basis. It'll really change your life, because now you're going to help yourself operate consciously, on a conscious level most of the time, instead of just being on autopilot.
And I definitely go on autopilot, particularly when I'm busy. When you're driving, you might be driving to work or to the doctor, and next minute it's 15 minutes later and you've just arrived and you're like, I don't even remember the roads, the lights. Yes. What's going on there? Is that just brain fog? Is it busy? Is it perimenopause? What is all that?
It's not brain fog. It's not brain fog. It's not menopause. It's your subconscious mind taking over. So your subconscious has been trained to do all the tasks.
Automated tasks.
Yes, yeah. That's why we go on autopilot.
But isn't that good?
It's not, because we say that 95% of the time we're on autopilot. And when you're on autopilot, you're not being in the present moment. But everything that you want happens in the present moment.
That is a huge takeaway.
Now.
That's the takeaway. Now. Be present.
Yes.
Let's move on to we've done release. Let's go into rise. Naima, what does that mean?
So rise, we look at the different areas of our life. When I start with my clients, the first initial assessment, usually we go, okay, well, what's the first area of your life that you want to focus on? So we kind of rate the different areas, and the one where you feel the most suffering is usually what we begin with. And then after that, what else do we want to create? Now we move to creating in life. Now we move to bringing into our life all the things that we want. We have the awareness. We released most of the stuff that's been holding us back. Now what do we want? And if someone tells me, oh, well, my relationship is at a 10, so I'm good. I'm like, okay, well, what is a 13 or 15 looks like? There is always the next level. There is always room for improvement. So rise is all about creation. It's all about bringing about the things that we want to experience in this life.
When you think about the 3 R's, the realize, the release, and the rise, what's the length of time that would take somebody generally with the clients, particularly and I'm talking with the clients in the space, of high-performing professionals, the leaderships, the entrepreneurs, solopreneurs doing it all alone?
Yeah, usually 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my core programs is a six month long, and 99% of the time people literally change their lives within that time frame.
Because do you find that these high performers are actually moving at a faster pace?
What do you mean?
When they're trying to make this change, they action things faster. They don't sit on things as long.
No, it's not. I guess it all starts with the desire. One of my clients that I'm working with right now, she just amazes me because she came into all of this with really strong desire to change her life. And that plays a huge difference in the process. So it's easy. Like anytime I teach her something, she's like a sponge. She's just absorbing everything, and it makes so much sense. And things are changing in her life at the speed of light. And I'm just amazed. I'm like, I didn't go through change like that fast.
Impressive to see.
It's so impressive to see. Yeah.
At what point do you think, though, people get into a space where they either step up, or maybe they have stepped up, but then they default back into old bad patterns?
Yeah, like we said, it's the expectations. Sometimes people fall victims to their expectations. So you come into something, you start doing the work, and you think, oh, well, it should just take me, I should see results within a month. And they don't. And then they start falling back to their old belief because they don't believe in what they're doing anymore.
They want it now,
Yeah.
as you say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you watch this transition, tell me, what is it that you notice? What behavioral change are you seeing that indicates that someone has actually changed? Maybe they've created the habits and the default thinking to keep moving forward.
Creating that peace of mind, having clarity. They don't wake up in the morning and go, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want to do today. Letting go of expectations, of frustration, being in the moment most of the time, checking in with themselves daily, so the awareness, that the awareness is built and it's there and they're good to go. They check in with themselves when they're triggered. Why am I being triggered? One of this client that I just told you about, I love how every time she has this frustration with her husband, she asks herself, okay, is it really the meaning that I'm giving it right now? And that transformed her relationship. Even her husband, I had a chance to talk to him and he told me that. Because we react most of the time. We don't take a moment to just pause and question why, what is this? What is the meaning that I'm giving to this thing? Is it true? One of the things I always tell people, don't believe everything you think. But many of us, as soon as we think something, we just react to it on the spot.
Do you have like a little ritual or a framework or, a few steps that you give to your clients that maybe they should do weekly or daily to get into the powerful mindset?
It all depends on what we're working on.
Okay.
And I have different exercises, different practices, basically, I call them homework. Every time we finish a session, like, okay, here's your homework. So
I can't wait to get my homework today. Yeah.
It's all based on what we're doing and what we're working on. Yeah.
Okay. So if just to wrap it up a little bit here, so if someone is feeling stuck or they're feeling like they're just not moving at the pace that they want to, and I think there's a lot of business owners that are there, maybe they're juggling too many things and they're feeling that sense of overwhelm, where should they start?
Start by doing, I think, journaling. Just sometimes we hold a lot of stories in our head, a lot of beliefs that we're not even aware of. And I feel that this is, and I really think it's an amazing practice to just sit and just write, just dump everything in your mind and just put it on paper. And you'll realize that you'll free up a lot of energy. I do that even with my to-do list. Sometimes I try to just keep in mind everything that I want to do, but the moment I put it on paper, it feels so much lighter because you released and you liberated so much energy. Now you have that energy available to you to do something else. And to answer your question, now you have energy to actually see things with more clarity, and more presence instead of being in your head 100% of the time.
I have a quick question for you. Is there something that you wanted to get out in today's discussion that you think would be helpful to the listener?
One of my advices here is to just, like I mentioned earlier, just pause. Pause before you react. Just check in with yourself. What state are you in? Are you reacting out of frustration, out of fear, out of anger? And just take time to release whatever it is before you react.
To connect with the emotion that you're feeling.
Yeah.
And be more aware.
And more present.
Yeah, more present. I think that's important. Okay, here's the fun bit, Naima. Hold on to your hat, girlfriend. I'm going to go through what we call the rapid fire questions. There's 10 questions coming at you, hard and fast. Don't overthink it. What's something people are always surprised to learn about you?
That I've struggled with all of the things that I'm teaching them.
Oh, good. Morning person or night owl?
Night owl.
What's your go-to comfort food or drink when no one's watching?
Sweets.
Any sort of sweets? What's one thing you're really bad at?
Singing.
Is it? I've not seen you sing.
I'm terrible. You should ask Dave. I'm terrible at it.
If you had a totally free year, the whole year's free for you, what would you do with it?
Travel the world.
What's a small daily ritual you'd never give up?
2, meditation and working out.
What are you currently obsessed with?
Working out.
What advice have you ignored at least once? Sorry, Mum.
Oh my goodness.
Habit you keep falling into.
A habit I keep falling into. Goodness, I can't think of anything. Shopping.
Shopping. What always makes you laugh, no matter what?
Looking in the mirror.
What? You'll have to explain that one later. What does a perfect day look for you right now?
Being at peace. Being okay with whatever I've done during that day and however my day went. Just look at the bright side of whatever happened to me during that day and not focus on the negative things.
And how can people find you?
NaimaSpencer.com.
And we'll put those into the show notes. So Naima, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
If you are finding yourself in a bit of a holding pattern, you can always use the 3R framework and really understand what mindset you're in, whether you're in this primal, in survival mode, or if you're hopefully getting into this powerful mindset, which is the space that a lot of us, really do want to be in. But you've got to identify what that and realize and make yourself aware of what is holding you back. And then, as Naima has said to us, just take one small action. And we say this all the time. Now it's over to you to do that. So thank you for listening to us today, and hopefully we see you in the next episode. Cut.
Cut, it is.